Hey folks, welcome back to Dig Drive DIY. Today, we're on a continuation of a job you saw a couple months ago. I work at G&K Concepts. We're an independent agronomy firm, but it's also a working family farm. And on this farm, they're expanding. They're building a new grain bin. And earlier, we built the pad. I dug the footer with the backhoe. We hauled in a bunch of stone, and they poured the concrete for this. I'll give you a little bit more in-depth recap. But today, they're going to start building the actual grain bin itself. So the crew is here. They delivered all the materials, and they're going to start raising this thing up. It's a 45,000 bushel bin. It'll be pretty cool to see how it all goes from a bare concrete slab to a fully functioning and hopefully working grain bin this fall. They're already going to get to work, so we'll catch up with them here in just a second.
Dig Drive DIY.
Okay, well, in case you're new here and you missed the previous videos about this, I'll give you a little recap. Several months ago, we started preparations in order to build a new grain bin at this small family farm. I used the backhoe to strip the topsoil, and then I dug a footer. And once the footer was done, we started hauling in stone. We filled up the center to take up some of the space that otherwise would have been filled with concrete had we not used stone to fill it up. Once the stone prep and the work was done for the footer and the foundation, we called in the concrete guys. The concrete guys showed up. They made the stone look super pretty, compacted all the fill, and then they formed up for the concrete itself. Once the footers were poured, they poured the floor and the walls all together in one pour. It was really cool because they used a pumper truck to get that work done, and they made short work of it. They started really early in the morning, around 5 o'clock, and they were done by 10 or so. I don't know. It's crazy how quickly they got it all done. But the concrete's been done now for several weeks. It's set up, and now the bin crew is here. Yesterday, they showed up with a semi and a couple of flatbed trucks and delivered all the parts for this grain bin. They got all the pieces and parts staged around the outside perimeter, and now it's time to start putting it all together. So the new crew is here today. They've already rolled out all of their equipment and their jacks and the drive shafts that go around the outside, because what they've got to do is they've got to build the top of the bin first. So they'll start with the roof, of course, and then they'll start attaching the rings to the roof, and that'll be the top, and then it'll start going up. And it's really interesting to watch because they'll put a set of rings on, raise it up with these jacks, and then just keep going. They got the stairs to put on the bin, so we'll just kind of watch them, get some time lapse of how the process all goes. I think it's pretty interesting. Hopefully you do too. There's a coating of oil on all these roof panels, and overnight all these bugs landed on here and got stuck. Wow, what a mess. It's currently day 2 of the grain bin construction, and they're probably going to get the roof on it here before noon, I expect. As you saw, they put the jacks inside, and the jacks are attached with PTO shafts all the way around the outside perimeter of the bin. And when they're ready to raise it, they turn on an electric motor. The electric motor drives all of those jacks in unison, and the entire bin goes up very, very slowly, but all at once, until it's high enough that they can get another sheet in there. And then once the sheet's in there, it's time to put in bolts. And they put in lots and lots of bolts, as you've seen. That's the majority of the work, from my viewpoint, is putting in fasteners, and there's buckets and buckets of fasteners. So you want to do all the work you need to do way up high. It's easier to do while the bin is down low. So they're going to do all that stuff today, like hook some pipes up and attach things to the top. They need to start the attachment of the ladder or the steps that go around the outside, but all that'll get done today before it goes up. Well, another new day. Today they're here. Yesterday they got the roof on there. Another nice day. We've had 3 great days in a row. Weather forecast looks fantastic. They're going to try to finish up everything that needs to be done around the top perimeter and on the roof cap itself. And then they said that today the bin will start going up. See how they got a upright on every one of these bolts? And that's incredible because they drilled all these holes for these bolts and set them in epoxy put them in before any of this was here, and they're all spot on. So that's some careful measurement in a circle. Those are all vents, those holes in the edges. They each get a little hood on them. There's a vent, and there's a tube that'll fill it from the top. So it's got an air system that blows the grain in there. They're talking about the electrical. This is Bill, the electrician, and he needs to run conduit up to the top to get power up there at the spreader. And they obviously want to do that as well before it gets too tall. All right, we're gonna sit back and relax and just watch a little bit of this getting put together. Unfortunately, I can't stay here all day and watch, so we'll turn you loose with a time lapse and see what happens. All right, well, it has been a couple days actually since I last did any dialogue, but they've been hard at it for 2 or 3 days, raising this bin. So ultimately it's faster. So over the last couple days, the thing just keeps growing. You know, they'll put on 3, 4, 6, maybe rings a day. And it's finally gotten to the point where here we are. It has reached its full height. The crew has showed up for probably what is their last day. They're gonna put the floor inside. The floor is all laying out there in the yard right now. It's bundled up into different size pieces. And then they're gonna start on one side of the bin and build to the other side of the bin. What they told me they do is they're actually gonna take one panel out of the side closest to where those floor sections are stacked, and then they'll bring them in through the hole that they create in the bin. Then they'll start building the floor, which sets up on jack stands. And then they'll have the floor all done. And I think they'll be out of here. Today they're loading up the jacks right now as I speak, trying to put them in the trailer, and they'll be done. That's what gets all the grain out right there. All the grain flows to the center right here and out. These rods actuate a door that goes over the top of that hole. These guys are running a 7.3 Power Stroke, and I just talked to them about it. This one's got 331,000 miles on it. They said they got one with over 500 at home. That's cool to me. I had a 99 Power Stroke that had a couple 100,000 on it, but just really good trucks. I wish I still had it actually. Okay, well, I'm gonna let those guys work. I'm gonna get on to doing something else. We'll check back with you later. All right, back today to check in on the grain bin project. Obviously, the thing is completely built now. The guys did a great job of getting that finished up in a short amount of time. The weather has been absolutely perfect, almost no rain whatsoever while they were actually doing the construction of the bin. That crew that did the construction of the bin is different than the crew that comes back and sets it up and finalizes the entire build. So that crew is here today. So they've got to connect the pipe that goes into the top of the bin. It's an air pipe that fills the bin from the top. There's an auger that empties corn out of the bottom. That one's already installed, but I think they got to finalize that. And then they got to mount the fan. They're going to use a crane. The crane will help to set some of these overhead pipes. It'll help them to hold up the big fan that's on the back and get that mounted. And then by the time they're out of here, I think this bin is ready to accept corn. So this is called a cyclone. This is what filters off all the fines from the corn. That's basically, they call them bees wings. Those get siphoned off and they collect in this cyclone deal. They call it the fines, but it makes a huge mess. But they've got all the pipes connected and they got everything looking good. I think their part is done. The actual bin construction is complete. The only thing left we have to do is maybe some of the landscaping around the bottom. I think Greg and Kim want to add rocks around the bottom like the rest of this, which will make it look really nice. And then it's just a matter of getting all that corn that's in the field, got to get it harvested and then transferred into the bin. So that's what we're going to check out next. All right, well, it's been a few weeks. Everyone's been here and done their part. The concrete was poured. The guys that put up the bin have been here and erected the bin. Guys that put in all the augers and all the piping and infrastructure have been here and done. The electrical guys have been here. Electrician Bill put in all the necessary electrical lines, and now we're getting really close to harvest, and Greg is wanting to use this bin. So a little task for us today is to try to put a piece of 12-inch tile. I wish we could find a 15-inch piece, but I can't find one. Anyway, a piece of tile at the top where the fill spout enters the bin. There's a little bit of a space up there, and if you don't contain the grain, it'll kind of bounce onto the roof. So I found a piece of 12-inch dual wall pipe at home. I've cut it to the appropriate length. Now we're gonna go up there and I'm gonna see if I can get it to fit in there and kind of contain, you'll see, I gotta contain the corn from where it comes out of the spout to where it goes down into the bin. We gotta head to the field and harvest a little more corn to put in there, but then we'll try it out. Okay, there's no way I'm gonna get that in there. I'm gonna have to cut a bunch of it off. Cut this off. I want to catch that so it doesn't fall in the bottom. Could let it cool, I guess. Go on there now. All right, so I took the 15-inch piece of tile, stuck it down in there first, put the 12-inch on top, and then I put some lag screws in there that are sticking through the 15-inch far enough that the 12 can't fall through. So now it's kind of mated together, and that should do the trick. Now this grain can't bounce out of here. I'm actually not super fond of heights. My legs are getting the shakes now. They're starting to quiver on me. So it's time I get down and grab some lunch. Then maybe we can find some corn to shell and get it transferred up in here and see what it's going to look like. Then we'll know we're done. When it holds grain, then we know we're done. Then you gotta wait to just unload it later. It's pretty amazing how many times the grain is actually handled before it reaches its final destination. It all starts with a combine in the field, of course, and in this case the combine harvests 8 rows at a time, but some machines will take fewer or more rows depending on what the machine is actually capable of. The ears of corn get plucked from the stalk, and the combine separates the kernels from the cob, and it all builds up and collects in the grain tank of the combine. When the grain tank is full, the combine will empty into a grain cart being pulled by a tractor alongside the combine. And the whole reason for this is so that the combine can keep harvesting without ever having to stop to empty. It's all about efficiency. But you don't have to have a grain cart because of course the combine can empty straight into the truck also. In this case, the corn from the field is hauled back to the farm with semis, each hauling around 1,000 bushels apiece. The grain trailers are unloaded by what is called a drive-over belt conveyor. Basically, you run over it with the truck to straddle it with the hopper bottom doors of the trailer. The conveyor is then hydraulically driven by this little Allis-Chalmers D17 tractor, and there's a whole process for getting the system up and running together. The belt conveyor empties into a large electric auger, which transfers the corn into a wet holding bin. You see, the corn coming out of the field is of high moisture, usually over 20%. If the corn were put into long-term storage at that high moisture, it would spoil and rot while sitting in the bin. So the 7,000 bushel wet holding bin feeds into the propane-fired dryer, which dries the corn down to about 16% or so, before it is then transferred into the larger bins for long-term storage. Greg's been filling the older grain bins first, but now it is finally time to start filling the new bin and just have that feeling of completion. to check the moisture to see how wet this corn is.
See, it's a lot drier. That thing's dropped 2 points since we started. Pretty dry. Now, I gotta go check the moisture coming out of the dryer just to confirm where it's at.
Done already? It's fast. So you're measuring the moisture of the corn.
The moisture of the corn coming in out of the dryer. I check this constantly so I can tweak my dryer settings if I need to speed it up or slow it down to get the desired moisture.
So basically how long it spends in the dryer.
Yeah.
You just put it on time, tumble dry.
Medium press.
Medium press. You don't put it in for towels.
Oh, that's perfect.
So it's going into the
That's
bin.
exactly what I want. So it comes out, see it comes out hot. The dryer temp is set to 115 grain temp. When it comes out of there and falls out, it's about 105 to 110. So it's going into the bin hot, and then it cools in the bin. So I keep the fans running so it cools in the bin. When you cool hot grain, you'll usually lose 1.5 to 2 points of moisture cooling. So that 16.5 will be 15 or a little bit under, which is perfect.
All right, well, there you have it. We saw a grain bin get built from the groundbreaking to the point of putting corn in it to store in hopes of selling at a later date to kind of maximize your return on your investment. So as you might guess, this stuff is a huge investment, and farmers, they have to gamble a little bit of the time to try to get as much as they can on the effort and work they put into their crop. So that's what's great. Greg is in the middle of doing right now. But I hope you enjoyed getting to watch it be built, kind of learning and seeing how it all goes. We're done for now. The bin is almost half full already at this point. So pretty soon they'll be topped off and the season will be over. But I want to thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hope that you liked it. And if we're lucky, we'll see you in the next one. I'm going to go haul some more corn. Hey, if you stick around to the very end of these videos, then you're my kind of viewer, and I want to thank you so much for being a till the ender, as I used to call them. It means a lot to me. And I also want to take a second to thank the patrons that are supporting me also over on Patreon. That has been a big help, and it's a great place for me to kind of experiment, do some behind the scenes videos and off the cuff stuff that doesn't always make it to the main channel. And if you'd like to jump over there and see that, one thing for an example would be I did a POV ride along in a semi truck as I hauled a load of grain to Greg's new grain system. And so I just clipped the camera to my hat. It's edited, but it's 6 or 7 minutes of riding along in a semi that usually doesn't have a place on a video like this. But if you'd like to check it out, I'm going to post it on there now so that if you got done watching this video, you could go over to Patreon and check it out. Thanks again to everyone, regardless of whether you're on Patreon or not. I just appreciate it all. So we'll see you in the next one, if I'm lucky. All right, still hauling corn. Gonna see how full the new bin is. Oh my, clear full. Wow, it's cold too.